Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willy Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynn Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. And good evening once again, and welcome to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. I am your host, Willy Hassell, your gatekeeper to the dark side, your guide to the realm of the unknown, the unseen, the unthinkable. And she is the always lovely, the always mystical, and the very mysterious Lynn Nickerson.
Good evening, Willy. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Lynn. How are you doing?
Just great.
Great.
Nice sunny day.
Oh, it was nice. Well, kind of clouded up later on, but before that, it was
still
pretty
a nice day. And we have a great lineup for tonight.
We have a great lineup, but first I do want to mention that Craig is on a vacation day this week, and so we are going to be here for 2 hours, a 2-hour show tonight. And on that show, what we're going to talk about tonight is Litchfield Hills, Connecticut. It is the center of one of the most bizarre paranormal events ever, sometimes referred to as the Connecticut Triangle, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot sightings, missing time, black helicopters, military personnel, and possibly even a secret military base that we don't know. The center of this mystery seems to be a small farmhouse which has been experiencing strange phenomena for generations. And we are very lucky to have in the studio tonight with us 4 guests who have been conducting an ongoing investigation in the area for a number of years. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce them one at a time. And first, he is one of the top paranormal investigators in New England and has been doing paranormal investigations for over 20 years. And in that time has done thousands of investigations and helped thousands of people around the country and around the world. So from TrueGhost.com, let us welcome Shane Sirois.
Thanks for having me.
Good evening, Shane. Welcome. Welcome to the show. And then we have internationally known father and son paranormal investigators, Paul and Ben Eno, who are hosts of Behind the Paranormal Radio. Paul is the author of several books on paranormal, including Footsteps in the Attic and Faces at the Window. And Ben has been helping his dad on paranormal investigations since 2005 and has since become the world's youngest recognized authority on the subject. And so welcome to the show, Paul and Ben Eno.
Thank you very much, Willy.
Thank you.
Welcome, Paul and Ben.
I wouldn't call myself an authority, but thank you.
Well, I got that off your website, so
My dad wrote that, not
Someone
me.
wrote that.
it's got to be true. And also, we have the author of the best-selling book, The World's Most Haunted House, the true story of the Bridgeport poltergeist on Lindley Street. And he is now documenting the Connecticut case in his new book, The Haunted House Diaries, which is due to be released on August 17th, I believe. Let us welcome William J. Hall.
Thank you, Willy, for having me. Thank
Good
you.
evening. Oh, thank you for
Welcome,
being
Bill.
here, Bill. Is that correct, August 17th?
Yes,
the release
no, you
date?
have it right. Yeah.
Good. All right.
Terrific.
So, welcome everybody.
Yes, welcome. So
Thanks
good
for
to
having
see you
us.
all here.
It is. And everybody made a long trip just to be here with us tonight, and we appreciate that.
Oh, we're very grateful. Well, we're going to be having Bill here a little later on in the summer.
August 15th, I think.
15th, yes, to give us more detail on the book. So tonight, we hope to get a lot of information from all of the input from all of the investigators that are going into the book. And as Willie mentioned, this all took place in Litchfield County, Litchfield Hills, Connecticut. And what I wanted to mention was to kind of set the scene of what Connecticut is all about. I'm beginning to think that Connecticut is a very strange place.
I've always thought that.
In the
Bill
environment.
and I are from there, so yeah.
Yeah. But so many odd things have happened. And there's a place like Gunjiwamp Swamp, which is very weird. Another place called Barahak, which you have investigated, and that is just beyond bizarre. And then the other place, which is really close by to this particular location, is Dudleytown. And that place kind of freaks me out, too. And since it's so close, I was just going to briefly review what has happened there, at least what has purportedly happened there. But some of it has been refuted, and some of it has been reasoned out. But this is what the mythology is. That the Deputy Governor Thomas Dudley was found hacked to death in his own home there in Dudleytown. There have been reports of, there were many murders, unexplained, never solved. There were reports of half man, half creatures wandering in the woods. There were many individuals there that went insane. And last but not least, there was a disease that wiped out one Carter family homestead in particular. And toward the end of all this happening, that the Dudleytown was established in 1738, and it was about the mid-1700s that this happened. So after all of these people have experienced all this strife, there was one last family, the John Brophies, and what happened to them one day, he came staggering out of the woods. I don't know if you read this or not, but he came staggering out of the woods. His wife was dead. His children were missing. And he was screaming something about seeing a half man, half beast. So he was the last family at Dudleytown. So some of this, as I said, has been refuted, but it just stands to reason that there's something going on there in the area, and it's very bizarre, which leads me to all of the odd things that seem to be happening in Litchfield Hills. So, Shane, I know that you've been there several times. How many times have you been there investigating?
Probably 4 times, I think.
4 different times. And have you investigated in conjunction with both Paul and Ben?
We haven't visited together, but I've been there with Bill, and but we all communicate back and forth and everything. But what I've felt and I think is pretty much in line with what they've felt for the most part. And this property, where the family lives, I liken it to a busy steakhouse that you go to on a Saturday night, where one of those restaurants where they throw the peanut shells on the floor. I won't mention company names, but and it's so loud, and everyone's just and there might be 100 people in the establishment, but to me it sounds like thousands of people, and I get almost anxiety, and I get a feeling, but that's noise I can hear. But when I go to this property, I get the same anxiety. Like there's so many things happening. There's so many people.
It's like pressure in your chest and so forth.
Yep. In that property, it's the same thing. There's just so many things going on there, and that's how it started for me. Like as soon as I pulled up, I could feel that it was just really loud, but like anxious,
like really busy.
Yeah,
like busy in your head,
and anxious, and just this property is something else.
And that's the house, in particular, the farmhouse that you're talking about.
Yes, and
yeah.
I haven't been to the the alleged, or what we know as the secret military base, and I still want to get there. I haven't.
Oh, good, if you can get close to it.
Yeah, but I've been just fascinated with this property that the family lives at, and just witnessed so many things from the first time I've been there. Seen apparitions, heard voices, just so many things. So
as soon as you first pulled up at the place, you just said, "This is going to be good."
Immediately. Yeah.
A funny thing, when Shane was coming down there, I asked Shane, "Do you want to read the diary, or do you want to come in here fresh.
Oh, yeah,
And he says, no, let me just go in there fresh. When he walked in the door, he mentioned about 4 or 5 things that were in the diary. And
Yeah.
the lady of the house, Donna, looked at him like, oh my God. And these are things that happened, maybe 4 or 5 years ago or 8 or 20 years ago, depending on what it was. And he mentioned 4 or 5 things off the bat that were, taken like right out of the diary. Never saw it before. So he, Shane really has a unique ability
sort
to
of
feel these
sensibility
things.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. As you know, people have experienced it, and Paul has that too, and Ben,
Yes. Well, since we're touching on that, then why don't we mention a few of the things like the train, like the horse? You're on.
No, I went out to the truck. I had just gotten there, and I brought in some stuff in my hand, like my normal bag, and I said, oh, I might as well go out and grab something else, and Bill had a friend, Ray, who's a great guy, that came with him to take some pictures and stuff like that. And he said, come out and give you a hand if you need it. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm all set. But he came out anyways, being a nice guy. And I got the sense of like a railroad, like a train, just, and I just spit it out. I didn't even think about it, like I mentioned.
It wasn't something that you saw or heard. It was in your head.
Yep.
Yep.
No, well, both.
Both?
I did hear it, but I felt it too. But a lot of things pop up in my head without me thinking about them. They just pop up. This I did hear, and I blurted it out without even thinking about what I was saying, And Ray said, "Oh, what was it? Oh, what'd you say?" And he repeated what I said. I'm like, "Oh yeah, Sometimes I do that. I'll walk through locations and I'll just blurt out things. I don't recall what I say, but he heard me, and I'm like, yeah. And so they went in, and apparently it was a big deal because this is something that Donna, the lady that grew up in the house, has witnessed firsthand. Looking out her window, she's actually seen like freight cars going by.
And the railroad bed is no longer there, correct?
There was never one.
There was never a railroad bed. No.
Well, not in the past, perhaps in the future. That's
Right.
how it works.
Right.
Aha.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is an interesting prospect.
Well, the horse was
it is.
me, I think.
Yeah.
Unless someone else.
Yeah, I was going to
experienced
ask, wasn't
Yeah.
it you, Paul, that
Yeah,
heard the horse?
in 2005, we first heard about this when Donna read my book, Footsteps in the Attic, which proposes that the paranormal is not necessarily about spirits, but about time and space, and the quantum multiverse idea, whether the hologram or, not to give everybody a lesson in that, but we think that's really how it works. You've got parallel worlds interacting,
gonna ask you about that.
intersecting, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And she said this is really the only thing that explains all the goofy stuff that's been happening around here for the past, almost at that point, coming up on 60 years. Because the farmhouse was built in 1793, and 6 generations of their family, of Donna's family, have lived there. And they sort of still were, because when Ben and I went in 2005, it was August of 2005, we're sitting at the dining room table, and you could feel people walking behind you.
Jeez.
I went outside, Ben was inside. I stood by, there's a large stone wall by a driveway, and I happened to stand there. It was probably 6-7 feet up. I heard the hoofbeats of a horse coming from the back, running right by me. I couldn't see it. I felt the wind. The leaves on the nearby trees kind of shook in the wind, and there was no breeze of any natural sort. And that was my first experience, like right off the bat. And usually, as the fellows will say, you don't often have things happen right off the bat, But this place was, and Ed and Lorraine Warren had visited several years before this, and Lorraine had called it Ghost Central.
Really?
Now, my relationship with the Warrens ended about 1978, but I think that's sort of well put. We call it a sort of a
Paracircus?
a paranormal circus, or sort of a Grand Central Station of the multiverse. So.
A very, very busy place. Shane, didn't you say on Paul and Ben's show when you were on, didn't you say that you actually had EVP of the horses? Or am I wrong about that?
No, you're correct.
You do have an EVP of the horse?
Yes, every single visit I had there, you could hear it's pretty much clippity clop, like they're
Yeah.
in a stable and they're
Or
like
on
anxious in there.
cobblestones?
Yes, clip, 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 clop. You know, like almost every single visit I've been in there, I ran the EVP recorders and I got
Wow.
what sounds like that clippity clop and anxious, like, you know, in place, not like they're running.
Yeah, like
but-
someone had a hold of a bridle and the horse is kind of moving around
yes,
type thing. Yeah.
exactly.
Well, then, Paul, did the horse seem to be coming from a direction where there might have been an old road?
Well, I think that's probably true. But the thing you have to bear in mind with the multiverse is that the things may exist parallel, occupying the same space that don't necessarily exist in our own time stream. There seem to be a lot of horses in this house, oddly enough, because that's a common, as Bill will tell you too, a very common occurrence. They'll wake up at night and hear that. It'll be coming down the hallway and this sort of thing. Now, the house was originally a general store, right? And Donna will often say that you could hear the unrolling of fabric or people talking as though,
Really?
that sort of thing. And whether it was ever a stable, I don't think it was. But that doesn't mean it isn't in some parallel reality.
Well, it could have been too that the horses were coming up to the general store. That's how they
quite
got
possible.
there.
This guy was going somewhere like a bat out of you know where. And that's, I don't know whether it was been ripped off by the proprietor or what was going on, but it was pretty fast.
Well, with that multiverse idea, I don't exactly know where the horses would come in other than the past, or they could be the future, but I'm thinking more the multiverse being not dependent on time would be relative to the cryptids or the Bigfoots, the creatures that we don't normally recognize. That would make sense to me. But the
Think of
others...
Einstein, like Albert Einstein, time is relative because you have the principle crap. Cannot remember.
General
relativity. There we
relativity.
go. Yeah, time is relative. It's just a function of consciousness.
And also time is supposed to be the fourth dimension in Einstein's formula.
Fourth and fifth. Well, the thing with the multiverse, and this is a key idea that it's very difficult to grasp sometimes, is that physicists who believe this, and there are a number of different ways in which they believe it.
I know.
And a number of prominent names agree with us, much to the glory of our egos. But what happens here apparently is that you've got anything that is possible, anything that is probable.
Every potential possibility. Yes.
Exists somewhere in the multiverse. And if you have the right sorts of intersections, you can have things that never occurred in ours. You can have other versions of yourself. You can have you're going to have people who have died here or have not died there, and that's why you see quote unquote ghosts.
Yeah.
And I think this explains at least some of the experiences.
It would. There's the endless number of possible planes, but there's also like a 26-dimensional possibility and a 10-dimensional
string theory, yeah.
Yep,
more or
and then
less, yeah.
10-dimensional that I've understood. So I don't know which would apply here. Probably the endless.
Well, there's also the quantum hologram, which really makes it interesting. You know,
And
it's a
tell
multiverse
us about that.
Well, essentially, it's the belief that all reality as we experience it, which of course is only a small part of what really is real, is a projection of a cosmic mind. And some people will say aliens, some people will say God, and that this can be experienced and manipulated. And it's really, as I see it, another form of the multiverse idea. We have all possibilities that can somehow converge. And in a way, we kind of can control that, which is quite a responsibility. And I don't know if I want to think much about that, but it's really anything is possible. And all impossibilities must be considered as
explored.
possibilities. That's we consider
Can't
ourselves
refute it.
explorers, cosmic journey. We always say that's the title of our next book, anyway.
Well, what I'm going to buy that. I'm going to run to the bookstore as soon as it comes out.
You know, you have a wait. It might be 2017. Our publisher said.
But getting back to the horses, then, where do you think the horses fit in? Like we mentioned, perhaps coming up to the general store. What do you think?
We really don't know because, as I say, one of the reasons that Donna contacted us originally was because of this idea. Because they would see all sorts of phenomena that did not seem to be related to one another. For example, one of the examples we often use is they were sitting in the living room one day and there were legs hanging from the ceiling, walking.
I wanted to ask you about that.
As though on a surface that didn't exist in our
So
world.
they witnessed this. It wasn't a photograph.
No, they witnessed this. There were 4 witnesses to that. And then there were the issues of certain creatures bouncing by the window outside, those sort of boxy structures and this kind of thing. And, you couldn't make this stuff up. And that's what the multiverse kind of is. You know, anything can come and go. And what we were concerned about originally, Ben and I, was the presence of negativity, because the other chapter in this book is the parasitical entities that we believe are responsible for our folklore about demons and evil spirits and this sort of thing. But they're real life forms that feed upon human energy, apparently. That's what we find.
Yeah.
That's what I found in the Bridgeport house and all these other things. And Shane does the same thing as too. That's why I like Shane, because he kind of agrees with us. Not many people do. But in any case,
He's a nice guy,
this is
too.
yeah, he's a great fellow. Yeah. So I mean, you're dealing with all this sort of thing, and we've never found anything negative because, in our opinion, the family in the house is so
It's so
positive.
loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if Charles Manson moving into the place, forget about it.
Yeah.
But these people are very positive, and it seems like nothing that we've seen negative has gotten. And Shane, not that this is your show. I'm sorry. Did
please.
you ever notice anything negative down there?
Well, I can just say there was a few minor what you would consider negative, but nothing.
It's around the periphery.
Well,
We
tell
never-
Yeah, it
us
was
about
around
it.
the periphery.
We never found
Much
it in the
much older
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like Donna's leg being felt at night, kind of thing. Making her
Okay.
uncomfortable, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, which
Yeah.
is negative, but nothing to the degree of
No one really injured, hurt. Nothing.
Right,
No.
nothing to degree of horrifying, or at least could be interpreted as completely negative. There was obviously some things that were, scary or disturbing, but for the most part, it was more fascinating and unusual than, negative. And that was, of course, in the earlier days.
Yes.
As things went on. I agree with Paul. I mean, overall, it's just been. If it was any other family, who knows what would happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
That was Bill Hall, and I agree with him exactly. Like, this is Shane. There were instances that they told me about that if would happen to most people, it might steer them into the thought process of them being attacked and put them in that vulnerable state and put them in line with what these parasites want. And but this family handled it perfectly, and they stayed positive and they didn't fear it and they stayed in control. Should this happen to most families, they're going to go in the opposite direction. They're going to start, letting that fear control their internal dialogue, and it's going to control them. Which you give that control to this entity, and they're different. They're not that way. She's very inquisitive, but in the appropriate way. Like, you can be inquisitive and be obsessive. She's not. She's very positive. Their relationship, her and her husband, Bob, they're both very positive people. And she's very interested in it, and she does it the right way. And that's why they can kind of investigate their own home and document it without getting into trouble. Because sometimes,
Without getting emotionally involved.
yeah, you can't let it control your every thought. If you let it control your day-to-day function, if you let it, if you change your day functions, if you have to, alter your life, based on what's going to happen and all this other stuff. But they're not doing that. They're
Well,
just
they're united too, evidently. So there's
Yeah.
that bond there that they give each other support.
right. And they're just there. We know our house is really active. We're going to just write it down if something happens. And, she might, put a recorder out, but she's not obsessed about it. She just said, if something comes through, I'll listen to it. And she's not going to read too far into it. She's not going to get freaked out. That's where people get in trouble. They read too far into it, and they take it too far, and they start talking to what might be there. And you could be, I got recorders that can record things at Market Basket, at Walmart, at anywhere you go.
Anywhere you can pick stuff up.
And so you could read too far into it. They don't do that. And so she just documented. That's why this book is perfect. The title of the book is perfect, Haunted House Diaries, because that's what she's been doing. She's been writing
Documenting everything. Yep.
yeah, for a while, and she's doing an excellent job, staying focused, staying positive, and just and they're a wonderful couple, and they're the right people for this home. And and I'll reiterate what Paul and Bill said. If you had a dysfunctional family in this house,
Yeah, who knows what would happen?
we would be
Probably serious poltergeist activity.
Exorcist, Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
Would look stupid compared to this house.
Well, tell me, what was it she perceived as being negative? What was it that seemed to be parasitic? Because you did say that there was something like that.
Every once in a while, in cases like this, something will pop in, and might, if you have a bad day and it's that active, you have that open door, something will pop in and try to freak you out a little bit.
But specifically, what happened to them?
I think
Bill, do you know?
they at one point she had this necklace that she could feel it spin around on her neck.
Oh,
And
That was very recently.
yeah.
really?
And it disappeared off her. It happened also.
Over many years.
Yeah, over many years. Once
That's true, yeah.
when her mother was there, she felt something. She felt it twisting on her neck, and she all of a sudden she felt, and it was gone. And she looked. She tore. Her mother went to bed. She tore the couches up. She turned them
Couldn't
upside
find
down.
it.
She couldn't find it. She said, "All right, I gave up. I'm going to go to bed." She started walking up the stairs, and it was draped on a riser of the stairs.
Oh, my gosh.
Perfectly, just right there for her to see when she walked up the stairs. There was no way for her to get it there.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to stop there right now. We're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a quick break. No one's to go anywhere.
Yeah, everybody just stay in your seat.
And we'll be back in just a moment. Supernatural Magazine, the UK's newest paranormal magazine, provides support to Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience. It is the magazine's goal to bring every aspect of supernatural news and research from around the world under one roof to create a universal platform for all those interested in the supernatural. More information is available at supernaturalmagazine.com.
You are listening to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience, on WSCALP 106.1 FM in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And we will be right back after this short break. Okay, you are tuned to WSEA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth's West End. And this is Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience. And I just want to mention that song that we just heard was from our friend Merle Fankhauser. And that is from his brand new album called Signals from Malibu. That song was Messages from the Dome. And what that was, those strange noises in there, supposedly sounds recorded off the coast of Malibu, California, where there is suspected to be an unknown underwater alien base. And Merle is going to be joining us on the show once again on August 1st. But anyways, tonight we have a studio full of people. We have Paul and Ben Eno, we have Bill Hall, and we have Shane Sirois. And we are talking about the strange happenings and goings on in Litchfield, Connecticut. And welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And we have a caller on the line, too. We have Donna. Hello, Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, it's Jonna. Yes.
Oh, is this Jonna or Donna?
Jonna? It's Jonna.
Jonna, how are you
Donna.
doing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
Well, did you have a question for us, Jonna?
Well, I didn't get to hear at the beginning of the show, so I had just called in during your break, and I just tuned into the show just now. So I was just interested in what you guys were talking about. So kind of got into the show late, so I'm just interested in what you guys are talking about. Actually, from Willy's brother.
So did you have a specific question?
Well,
Or something to add? Did you have something to add?
well, I probably will after I hear what you guys are talking about.
I guess I put you on the air a little bit too soon then, huh?
I did. Yeah, I called in a little too soon. A little too soon. So I guess I'll just listen to what you guys are talking about, and then maybe chime in later.
Okay.
Okay, Jonna. Well, thank you for calling anyway.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay.
Okay, so we left off talking about the necklace. And was there another event after that, Shane, that you know of? Oh, Bill, do you have something?
When you say after that, you mean in relation to negative things? Or I don't even know if that's particularly negative, but, you know.
Not necessarily, no, but was there something you wanted to add? Sorry, we don't have another mic.
Oh, no, it's fine. To some families, they would perceive that as negative. And for them, Donna's just perceiving that as something's just trying to make contact. And
Yeah,
but
a little disconcerting, but
that's what they do. They just establish contact, and once they establish
to get your
contact
attention.
and they tune that frequency between the two, then they have you, and then once you start talking to them and you think about them all the time, then they change, and that door's open, and
Yeah.
bad things come in, and parasites, and they feed off of that, and but they're not doing that. So it could be negative to other families where it's not for this family, because they're so warm and loving. And then recently there was something else that happened, and in the same thing, they just brush it off. I guess we're okay to talk about it now. Yeah. There was a banging on the side of the house.
Boy, that sounds familiar.
Yeah,
It does.
I'm saying it's okay because, now we all know about it, and they handle it perfectly, and it's the same thing. It's just another way to establish communication. But there was a banging on the side of the house, and it sounded like they likened it to like a sack of potatoes being beat on the side of their bedroom wall on the second floor, and it kept happening, and then she left the room, and she went into the room where her husband was at the moment, and they heard it again and then again, and it sounded like something was running on top of their house, But that's just this property. There's all kinds of
Just
things.
so much activity.
So much. And when you have, and Paul will tell you too, when you have something that's just so open and this revolving door, you can have anything coming through, and there's always going to be something looking to connect with us,
Yeah.
And okay, these negative things will come through. Oh no, I can't play with them because they're too positive, and then you'll have nice things come through, and they just have so many things just coming through, looking to connect with them, looking for them to give them the right attention, but they're just doing everything right. So that's how I look at it. And
Paul was about to mention something here.
yes.
Well, one point, I don't think Shane and I have disagreed in the last 18 years, but I just would want to point out an alternative answer to the possibilities of these movements and things. I think that in many cases we attribute perhaps things like the necklace to an entity or something. That's a very definite possibility. But there's an alternative explanation, and Ben and I always use the analogy of somebody running down a hallway, and you have some papers on a desk, and you stir up air, and the papers fly off the desk.
Interesting.
But you didn't it's not that you threw the papers off the desk, but that the conditions you created or that are occurring around you that allow you to run across the hall, are possibly responsible for this. Now, for example, in the Bridgeport case, I stood there with a couple of cops and firefighters, and Bill documents this in his previous book, watched a refrigerator float up. And this happened several times during this case.
That huge refrigerator.
Yeah. So whether it was an entity, a parasite, poltergeist, or whatever, actually lifting the refrigerator deliberately, or if it was world boundaries passing through each other, and this is another key in the multiverse idea, each world may have very different physical characteristics. It may have
physical
different laws
yes.
of physics. Yeah. So if you have pass-throughs going on, and this, you may have the refrigerator may have floated, and that might have been responsible. It wasn't necessarily an entity. Could very well be.
It could have almost been a vortex. It was created by
whatever puny words we
Yeah.
have that can describe these momentous realities. I think that's
an
a
interesting possibility. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I was going to say the necklace is interesting because it seems like it would be someone playing with it. But to Paul's point too, I remember interviewing one of the reporters that was there on the scene, and there was a little model boat on the top of a shelf that moved 4 inches to the left. And his remark to me was, I don't think a demon would move a model 4 inches to the left. That would be a pretty stupid demon, so I think that there's other things at play here than that.
Yeah,
So I think there are the energy interactions that are very separate from, entities, and then there are also the entity factor here, and we've seen it all in this house, but there are some very, and again, we don't know if they're entities, but as far as things happening that seem incredibly
almost atmospheric disturbances, paranormal
intelligent
winds.
or in some way, but then again, we don't know if it's because of that time relation or if it's specific to an entity, human or non-human.
But your point is that it might not even be a sentient being of some kind. It just might be physical or laws of physics that are at play.
Well, one of the things we do, and we've sort of, Ben and I kind of make a specialty of studying what we refer to as flap areas where various paranormal events are occurring that may not seem related to each other, but really may be because of the conditions that allow them to manifest. For example, the so-called Mothman events in the Ohio Valley in the 1960s, so-called by the media. And there was the central figure was literally this Mothman, sort of had no head, no show, this giant wings, and it would chase cars at 100 miles an hour. And again, you couldn't make this stuff up. Hundreds of people saw it or had experiences
That's
of it.
right.
Some of the experiences very positive, actually. Most very negative in the sense that it created tremendous terror.
And well, it also seemed to be precognitive of evil, bad events.
Seemingly, yeah.
Yeah, seemingly.
But in conjunction with that are a lot of lesser known things that occurred. And Ben and I were down there in 2003. He wasn't working with me yet, but he was taking it all in. We talked to some of the witnesses and other people who said that during that period they saw UFOs, men in black, so-called, footsteps on their roofs, red eyes looking through their windows, poltergeist activity in their homes, apparitions, and increased psychic abilities among members of their families.
Really?
So here is, in our opinion now, the classic multiversal intersect area
You're
where
right.
many different worlds, many different kinds of physics are intersecting. Many different inhabitants are, by accident or design, rubbing elbows, and anything really can happen. And this does seem to be, as John Keel said, the journalist who covered this, the normal state of our planet. He called Earth our haunted planet.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's
And,
well put. Yeah.
Yes.
And this is what makes the paranormal entirely normal. Our lack of awareness is what's abnormal.
That's an incredible expansion
well
on
said.
what most people have commonly thought about the paranormal. I'm telling you. Usually it's just ghosts or just certain singular events. And now we've got this combination. It's just mind-boggling. Because it wasn't just the Mothman, like you said. So all of these other events. And I think people are becoming more and more aware that that situation is related.
Yeah, even in, Paul and I were at UFO convention, I don't know, about a year ago, and I think the statistic was 83% of the time that there's UFOs, that there's also, the haunted house activity on the ground. And, many years ago it was always, let's not talk to the ghost people. They're stupid. Not like us UFO. Us UFO people are much more intelligent because we're more scientific. And then none of us talk to the Bigfoot people because they're off their rockers, But now we're realizing that
It's all
this
part of the
is this
same
is all
thing.
connect. Yeah, it's all
Yes.
more connected. And I see that, and I'm sure Paul has seen it more than me. I've seen that advancement, at least in many areas of research, that, people are into the UFO part of it, realize that it's related to the other, and vice versa. So.
Well, as educated human beings, I like to think that we view things through a certain framework. For example, if you see a shimmery figure outside your house and there's a flying disc over it, you say, aha, an alien. You see a shimmering figure inside of your house, you say, aha, a ghost. We, as human beings, like to view things through a certain framework, and if something does not fit that framework, that is what scares us.
Yeah.
The thing that scares us the most, besides boredom, is the unknown. The unknown is the most terrifying thing to people. Hence why maybe people were terrified by Mothman, because if like a 7-foot tall man-like thing with no shoulders and just like a bump for a head and wings with red eyes, that is terrifying. If that was looking in my window, I would be terrified. And as people like to think of me as fearless, I find Mothman very, very creepy. But that's not the point. The point being is we view things through a certain framework.
What we're familiar with and what's relative to our experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now the key is making those houses that within such framework fit together.
Very well put.
Well put.
Yes.
Very well put.
Speaking of not to hog things, speaking of the houses, we early on learned, by the late 1970s, I was learning to kind of look beyond one house, one family, to first the backyard and the front yard, and then to the neighbors when they would talk to you. And sure enough, in 1998, in that case we're still kind of monitoring in Burrillville, Rhode Island, the neighbors said, well, yeah, we've seen UFO activity around here too. And so every case may very well be connected with some kind of flap, no matter how small or how big. And the thing is, how do you judge? And we're still kind of considering that. So that brought us beyond the Donna's farmhouse to other areas, and then expanded the case pretty much throughout the county.
Yeah, we were wondering about that, the triangle. How big of an area are we talking about there?
Well, I don't know, the fellows would agree this size, but I think we're looking probably 5 to 10, not very big, 5 to 10 square miles of really hot activity. And we figuring the farmhouse as one point of the triangle, just for as a place to start.
Yeah.
In 05 and 06, we were doing the regular investigations, looking at these things in the house, and then started to look beyond. By 2009, it was kind of taken out of our hands in the sense that people started in Torrington and Goshen, Connecticut, started seeing UFOs in large numbers. We ourselves stood there in 2010 and saw these lights near this mountain, and people were getting out of their cars and looking up in the sky and seeing these things. Okay, so we said, this is interesting. At that point in the house, there was a gray seen in one of the bedrooms. Other people in the area will report a gray being the garden variety classic alien, at least as we think of it. And we were there and then there was military activity. It started in 2009 and 2010. There were large numbers of apparently troops or perhaps military contractors. People would walk to the edges of their properties with their dogs, for example, and they'd be turned back by armed troops saying courteously but firmly, you cannot come this way. Mark D'Antonio, a very dear friend of all of ours, who is MUFON's, the Mutual UFO Network's director of video and photo analysis for the whole country, we brought him in on this. And he said one of his friends who'd been fishing in a particular brook all his life was told to leave by armed troops. This seemed to center around a so-called abandoned farm in the town of Goshen. And we were there, Ben and I were there in 2010 with a producer and director from New York making a pilot for a possible television show. We've done that several times, and the networks always come back and tell us we're too intelligent.
What?
Yeah, although I can't talk about it because we're under contract, but we have there
Why
are
would that be a
possibilities.
deterrent? You got to be stupid to have a TV
Well,
show?
now a producer tells us they're looking for authenticity. I've been waiting to hear that. Shane and I have been waiting to hear that for 10 years. Right?
There's a direct relationship between that and intelligence authenticity?
I don't know. What are you talking
Anyway.
about? Hollywood and New York here. What can I say?
Jeez.
So in any case, we got some footage up by this farm. Things happened to Ben that I'm sure he has no wish to talk about. And then we also at that point found point 3, we believe, of the triangle. And someone else we believe was looking as well. And we believe they were looking in the wrong place for point 3. And we believe we found that. And we're going to take these fellas to point 3. I hope you're prepared, Bill, to write 3 or 4 more books because this is only just getting started.
Well, I went to where the military area was. Of course, now they have it all fenced off, and you can't get in there.
Okay, you call it the military area, but whose land is that?
We had trouble finding out. Apparently, it's owned by a private party that does not use it. There is no farming activity. And you have a camera here because I have photographs that are very interesting. If nothing else, I can describe.
Yes, actually, the camera's
okay.
The camera's
we
right
do
up
have
there.
a camera, not
But
sure
it is
how
radio,
well
so you're
it's
going to
set
have to
up.
describe what you're looking at.
Yeah, well, I have a nodding acquaintance with our own show, Ben. Thank you. Father-son relationship, nothing like it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Here's a shot I took from
Radio?
the ground.
I dressed up for nothing.
That's if you can see it. That's just a garden variety shot of the farm. There were central buildings that were rather old and unused, and hence the sense that it was sort of abandoned. In 2012, this in 2010, and by 2012, this is an aerial shot. The farm buildings, the central farm buildings, had been torn down, and the whole area kind of smoothed over, but the 2 silos were still there. And again, no farming activity as such. In 2013, you end up with this, a huge metal sheet between the 2 silos.
That is just...
And I have to say that's several
Weird.
thousand square feet. And I have to say that I'm a professional journalist by trade. And as a journalist under another hat, I've written about land development issues in the United States for the last 24 years. And I've never seen anything like that. Finally, 2014, I don't have a picture of it now, but a new farm building was built that reminds me of nothing so much as sort of an English dairy farm design. But
with no cows.
There are no cows.
No
There's
animals.
Absolutely nothing on the land.
If I can go
There's
back to this
nothing.
one, and again, sorry to the
Who
radio
are they
audience here.
kidding?
You can see underneath that there has been excavation where it had been.
To the left-hand side here? Is that what you're talking
around
about?
the edges of
shadowing?
the huge metal plate, yeah. And there is a very, Ben and I were kind of looking at this when we were making this on camera. There is a very strange building that seems to be, that doesn't have any windows, and that there are large numbers of wires coming out from it and going down into it, and then going right over to that farm, and the antenna is painted like as one would be in an airport. with the alternating colors. Now, also, I have some experience with military intelligence when I was in the service, and there was a matter of an awful lot of strange, what looked to me like microwave sensors on a lot of these very rural utility poles all around this area. It may have been nothing. All this could be coincidence, but it really sends up
Setting
a lot
up,
of, it makes my back kind of, hairs on my back kind of stand up. So,
In addition to all this, there's a lot of black helicopters seen in the area too. Is that
a lot
correct?
of them, they're being seen even still.
Still,
A lot of military transport. I checked with the Connecticut National Guard. They wouldn't admit that anything was going on. Now, the question is, why the military activity, if it is connected with this flap? But this is a pattern we find in flaps all over the world. Rendlesham Forest. The possible, certainly in the Mothman area, you had the so-called TNT area, military activity, Air Force people showing up later on. Because my theory is, and you've heard me talk about this at lectures, is that, wouldn't we love to weaponize the paranormal? Maybe they have to go where the intersects are. Why would they be doing this within 100 miles of New York City? Because that's where the intersects are taking place. And we find this again and again and again in these flap areas around the world.
How long a period of time from the destruction of the old farm to when they set up this metal plate and the 2 silos?
You're looking at a good year and a half. So if somebody was trying to
pretty quick.
get their farm going, I mean, that's pretty,
That's fast.
it's kind of a stretch. Well, no, if you're going to build a barn and put your cows in, you don't take a year and a half. You put the thing up, you know.
But what they put up, though, was kind of fast.
Extremely odd, too. Yeah,
Very
so-
odd.
So now, if I may, there's some information I received yesterday that has to do with another possible facility, which again may have nothing to do with this, but this is from Donna, the homeowner, and it said we took her grandson up to Mohawk Mountain today. This is Thursday, June 18th, 2015. And at the summit, there was an air testing station. I've yet to have a chance to find out what that is. I was talking to a woman about the tower, and she said that there were a bunch of new antennas and radar-type things that looked new. There had to be 100 black cords banded together running from the building and up the center of the tower. She said it felt like her brain was frying, and my ears had a high piercing hum in them. The site is not far from the farm, which we just discussed, as the crow flies. So again, maybe a coincidence, but certainly something strange. I'm going to get out there and find out what this is. But the very idea of getting this feeling in your brain and all this sort of thing goes back to another factor in this case.
Microwaves and mind control. And
Yep. The seemingly odd public behavior
and what is
in this area.
What are they exhibiting?
Well,
What kind of odd
Fellas want
behavior?
to talk about that? I'm yakking here, using up the whole show. So what?
Oh no, I'm just commenting on like stuff that Donna's been forwarding to us. There's been recently like really strange behaviors. This guy walking around town shooting into the sky, and
Oh no!
oh yeah, all kinds of crazy things happen in this town. I mean, I can't recall any. I know there was more stuff, but just recently there was some guy just walking around randomly shooting into the sky. But there's been murders, there's been suicides near their home, and
Beyond the statistical probability.
yeah,
People driving on the wrong side of the road. When it was noticed in social media and the local media, that behavior changed, and people started driving off the road and hitting trees. And
It's like
huge
their
amount-
brain waves are being scrambled.
Yeah, well, when I saw that microwave stuff on those poles, I began to wonder. Now, again, I wasn't some spook or anything. I had a clearance. It wasn't that high, but I had a nodding acquaintance with how this stuff works. So, again, maybe it's all coincidence, but I have to point out that horrifying Sandy Hook school incident
Oh,
a few
I
years
know
ago
it.
was not that far from here in this area.
There's
It is the top of the hour.
oh my goodness, how time does
I
fly.
know it, but what? We will be back though because we're here for 2 hours tonight. So
So we're going to take a short break.
yeah, we're going to take a short break, and this is another song from the new Merle Fankhauser album, Signals from Malibu, and this one is called Voices of the Sea.
I'm sorry, I'm so used to filling airtime.
Programming on Portsmouth Community Radio is provided by you, our members, and by Three Bridges Yoga, with studios in Portsmouth, Durham, and York, Maine. An accessible yoga studio for all levels of yoga practice, where beginners are welcome. Class descriptions and schedules are available online at threebridgesyoga.com.
Okay, you are tuned to WSCA LP 106.1 FM in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And you are listening to the extended version of Spirit Radio, The Paranormal Experience. I just want to mention that Craig is on vacation this week, and that the Graveyard Shift with Craig Mosier will be back next week at its regular time. And I still don't know what the temperature is, but...
Oh, it's balmy.
It's balmy.
It's probably 65.
I don't really care either,
My
because I'm
guesstimate.
inside.
So tonight we can expect a low of 59. Sunday, tomorrow, which is Father's Day. Rain and thunderstorms are possible in the afternoon with a high of 73. Monday, rain showers early and possibly the sun in the afternoon with a high of 84. Tuesday, clouds with scattered thunderstorms, a high of 80. Wednesday, it should be sunny with a high of 81. Thursday, sunny in the morning, followed by increasing cloudiness with a high of 77. And Friday, it should be morning showers, followed by afternoon clouds and a high of 78. And that's your Seacoast weather.
All right, and a note from the community calendar. On Tuesday, June 23rd at 7 p.m., author Christopher Golden will read from and discuss his latest novel, Tin Men, a story about a not-too-future war where robotic soldiers, anarchists, and global forces threaten the safety of the U.S. president and the soldiers who are dedicated to protecting him. The talk takes place at the River Run Bookstore at 142 Fleet Street in Portsmouth, and this event is free and open to the public. Further information can be found online at riverrunbookstore.com. And so, we are now back to Spirit Radio with our in-studio guests. We have Shane Sirois, Bill Hall, and Paul and Ben Eno.
Welcome back, gentlemen.
And Ben seems to have disappeared, but I'm sure he's close by.
I'm sure he's hovering about. Now, Paul was just discussing the military getting involved, or apparently building some kind of installation, it would seem. So you had once mentioned that they had sort of addressed you getting involved there, and I guess my question is, why do you think they're there?
Well, our theory, Ben's and mine, is that when you want to research something like this, you have to go. If we're right about these world intersects being behind these phenomena, you have to go where the intersects are in order to research them. And they don't just research; they try to, turn these things to practical uses. Ben's suggestion, after one of his experiences, was that they were researching the energies in portal areas, for lack of a better term. I think you maybe look at militarization of various paranormal energies, perhaps, which is nothing new, because the Soviets started doing that right after World War II, and the U.S. responded later on to Project Stargate, oddly enough named.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were looking at how to remote view and detonate weapons, explosives, against enemy targets, that sort of thing. Now I think it might have graduated to a realization that we may be really dealing with these sort of multiversal events. Now, we've received information from, over the years that we should be careful because we're on the right track. Now, that might be just some nut or whatever. However, only a few weeks ago, we had asked a friend of ours who has very strong connections with the intelligence community to take a look at this farm we've been talking about. And I don't want to give his name, but he said that he was told by his contact to back off this particular property. And when we were about to do a drone flight over it, I suppose I shouldn't say this on the air.
Well, whose drone?
Mark D'Antonio's drone. About
A
Antonio.
true drone or just like a little helicopter flyby?
Oh no, a little helicopter. It wasn't like
Oh,
something
okay.
you blow away ISIS people with it. No, this is.
No, I wasn't thinking that.
No, this is no. We're not going to weaponize our own paranormal activities, So, but before we had a chance to do that, I mean, I went to Torrington, which is a 2-hour drive from Rhode Island, so where we live. So, it's not an easy commute. And I went to the farm, Donna's house there, the 1793 farmhouse we've been discussing, and waited and waited and waited, and Mark wasn't there. Repeated inquiries went unanswered. Phone calls.
Cell phone, you mean?
Yeah, phone calls, emails, everything. And it turns out, I only found this out the other day, that Mark had been taken seriously ill and was in the hospital. And he will be there for some weeks. So I'm not saying there's some connection with what we were going to do here.
No,
but it really kind of torpedoed the whole next step that we had in this investigation. So we were going to go to the farm, as I say, and send the drone over and see what we could see. So that hasn't occurred yet. But it just...
Who else knew about it, Paul?
Well, it depends who's monitoring our communications.
Well, come on.
See, the thing I learned in intelligence was that you give right information from the wrong sources and wrong information from the right sources, and it keeps everybody guessing. And as we say, everybody loves a mystery, and people you get them looking the other way. So when we were on our show was on CBS Radio in 2010, we did a thing on the Rendlesham case with all the major witnesses, which is very much like this case. There's still weird stuff going on over there. I know. And it was a matter of strange voices. This is a brand new CBS studio. The engineers couldn't figure out why there was laughing in the background. Strange interference. People were being cut off right and left. And when you talk about this subject, that sometimes happens. Again, maybe it's coincidence. You don't want to get nuts or be paranoid here. But this case in Connecticut is attracting the same kind of odd behavior on the parts of somebody and interference, so to speak. So, I don't know. It's... you kind of get opposition when you kind of proceed through this.
I kind of have to wonder, Paul, if you, I mean, the way they're so secretive about this place, and if you did try to fly a drone over it, how far do you think it would get?
Well, that's what we wanted to find out. Whether somebody shoots it out of the sky, and what they use to shoot it with.
That would be interesting to find out.
What exactly?
Well, sooner or later we will. But
what did you have that you were planning on flying over?
What we had
your drone.
Oh, well, it had a camera on it.
Okay.
Video.
Yeah.
And what we were hoping to find was some sort of activity that would give us some idea of what was happening there, because this farm has no farming going on. Now, it's been pointed out to me that some of the farmers in the area may rent land for haying. That happens all over New England. Mm-hmm. And they can go in and... But I'm not... We have a spy network, for lack of a better term, because how do you cover a case of this scope? Just two of us, when we're 100 miles away.
And just to interject, I didn't see any hay on that land at all.
I didn't either.
I mean, there was no discernible, crops of any kind there.
No animals, no cows. And the name
There's
of
grass,
the farm,
maybe they can sell the grass.
I suppose. There's nobody grazing, no cows grazing there.
Right.
But the farm has the same name as another farm in the same town, and that's against Connecticut state law. I mean, the deeper you go into this, the weirder it gets. So as far as, and maybe we're entirely wrong. Maybe there's nothing going on. Maybe we're just paranoid. But I mean, it's just too coincidental. It's just too crazy.
If you got military personnel turning people back, telling them, no, you're not having this.
Well, that isn't happening now. They seem to have disappeared.
Oh, have they disappeared?
This is 2009 and 2010.
There must have been something going on.
And that pilot we made, we have never been allowed to see that pilot.
The pilot film, you mean?
Because when things happen to Ben, he doesn't really remember, and you wouldn't sleep if I told you some of the things.
Who did the film?
I really can't tell you that.
Oh, okay.
A well-known director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ben.
Hold on. Yes.
I would be very, very interested in hearing some of the details that you feel like disclosing that you feel comfortable about.
Okay.
You gotta let us.
All right. Well, fine. It's a small station, so I'll do it.
It's a small station, but it's heard worldwide.
Yeah, it's heard. It's international.
Okay, now you're making me not want to tell you anything. Oh no, it's fine. I'll allude to at least some stuff that I
Set
remember.
up the scene a little bit so that we know the context.
Okay, well, we met with the director and the producer, and it was just those two guys. So it was a small crew.
This was just an idea to do a TV show.
Yeah.
That was the premise. Okay.
Yeah, that was pretty much. And so we went to the house, and it was at this point that we really figured out where the third point in the triangle was. So we were going to go investigate it, and not too long before that, I think it was the same private buyer or some different private buyer bought up like this former like Boy Scout camp that was across the street from where this point actually was. So maybe they're looking in the wrong place. Who knows? I don't know. But there was no activity. So we pulled over on the side of the road, and they were like, well, I guess this is it. So people were wandering around, and I sort of went off by myself, and there was like this. It was weirdly placed. Like it seemed a little too conspicuous. I don't think anybody else noticed it except me at the time. There was a big stone in the middle, and then there were four stones around it, smaller ones, like on each side, like equidistant, and then a bunch little like smaller stones, like connecting it in like a circle around this bigger stone.
How large an area?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
25 feet in diameter?
No. It was small.
Or...
It was really small. It was like maybe 5 feet in diameter.
Okay.
Probably about that. So it was really small, and it was like right off the side of the road. There's a little like brook or whatever. So I was like, I wonder what would happen if I just put my hand on this stone. So I did. That was a terrible idea. Because
it sounds like a novel that I've just recently read. What the Scottish woman that writes all of the novels about time travel?
Oh God, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. They have it's on Stars now. It is called Outlander.
That's right.
Yep.
Now, she touches the stone. That's how it begins. And she goes back in time. She walks into a hinge, and she touches the stone. It vibrates, and she's in the 1700s. So,
I didn't go to the 1700s,
no, but
nor did I know about that.
Something similar
book.
seemed to have happened to you.
Makes you feel any better. I had no idea what that was until the Stars series appeared. My mom was like, "This is a really good show," and that I did. So this was like years ago. This was like 2010.
Diana Gabaldon. That's who I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yep.
So please continue. So you walk into the circle.
Yeah, and I put my hand on this stone. It was probably like maybe 2-3 feet high. So I sort of rested my arm on it, and then everything started going blurry. And I was just like, I'd had stuff like this happen to me before, and I was like, all right, I need to ground myself on something. So I was like, all right. So I sort of stumbled my way to this tree, and I put my hand on this tree, and then, bam, nothing. The last thing I remember was everything being white, and then I woke up on the ground.
Okay, was this tree within that circle?
No, this was how far away was it? It was like maybe
outside of the circle.
Then. Oh yeah. It was maybe a good 25 feet away. Less than that, maybe like about 25 feet away.
Can you attribute these feelings to anything physical, like a disease or condition that you might have? No. It was pretty spooky. From what I do remember, I remember. I think I don't know. I don't know what to call it. Because I don't want to do the whole spooky medium thing or psychic or whatever. Because I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. I don't call myself that. I don't call myself a shaman. Something strange happened to you.
Yeah, I mean I like to think of myself as a skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good virtue to be able to question things, not just sort of accept things automatically. So I sort of there's more to it, but I'd rather not get into it.
Okay. So how long until you realized something had happened?
Because
you saw white.
Well, then, after a couple other things happened that wherever I was or are whatever
during this period of time.
Yes, I woke up in the mud, and my dad was standing over me, and the two guys, the camera guy and the director, were just staring at me like mouth agape.
Like
and
you had two heads.
Pretty much, yeah. So apparently, where I landed was there was a brook that ran through, but it split into two halves and went around this tree. And then this tree.
You're kidding? That is odd.
It gets weirder. So this tree also went up, split into two halves, then connected again. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. No, it was pretty weird.
That is weird, yeah.
It was weird stuff. And
no weirder than you rising off the ground.
Wait, what?
You weren't going to mention that, were you?
But
no.
that's all right. Your father will.
Yeah. That's why. So
that was witness. You weren't aware of that until someone mentioned it to you, right?
No. No, I had no idea where I was.
We were out for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, so you basically, most of this time, you didn't know what was going on, but you were there, Paul? You witnessed this? What?
Yeah, yeah.
Could you fill in the
Well, no,
the missing part
that's about
here,
it. It appeared to me that he kind of, because he fell right in the mud. I said, "Oh my gosh, my mother, my wife's going to kill him." But but it was a really strange place because, as Ben said, this brook split and joined again. The tree did the same thing, and we have to bring these fellas over to. This is for your next couple of books, right? Bring you over to show you point 3, and what was going on while you were out, and also before that and after that was there were trucks coming and going from this alleged camp.
Military trucks?
No, they didn't look. But most of them were white, which you see at Area 51. I didn't notice the license plates because we were kind of down the hill from the road. But I later said they're looking in the wrong place. So that was my opinion.
Yeah.
For this power point. Here.
Yeah.
And so this, I think, if you look at it the way we do, meshes into a huge sort of big picture of this flap area from the little farmhouses and things where weird things are happening to normal people. People, the behavior modification, if that's what it is, the farm, and then now perhaps another situation here, and then points 1, 2, and 3, and the Litchfield Triangle, if I may call it that.
What was the reaction of the crew? And did everything stop at that point?
As Ben said, because if you have more than 2 people, you have to get permits. So they had it was just the director, and the producer was also doubling as the cameraman, right? As Ben said, their mouths were kind of agape. And again, we have never been permitted to see that film. So
was it ever finished?
No.
Was it ever finished?
Well, we don't know. Contact was immediately cut off. I heard through the grapevine, whether this is correct or not, that somebody got to them. This happened to Bill Burns from UFO Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
He's a very dear friend of ours. He's co-hosted our show and this sort of thing. And
I've seen him.
As you can see, UFO Hunters is not on the air anymore, right? They got too close to Area 51, where I myself was chased across the desert. That's a different story. And Bill says that somebody got to the network and they canceled the show. Now he's doing Ancient Aliens.
But he did that for quite a while.
He did. And it was a great show. Very well done.
Yeah,
very feet on the ground and very sensible and good people, I thought. And blown out of the water because they got too close to a classified area.
Well, you were talking about portals on one of your other shows, and there seemed to be like 3 kinds, and this is relative to what we were talking about. I'd read a book about a crew, an astronaut crew, going to the planet Serpo. And they talked about, this was in about 1965. No one really knows if this happened. It was part of what I think is the secret space program. But anyway, it was indicated that it took them several months to get there, half of the time it took to get to the portal in space, and then they slipped through a portal. But the portal was at a direct angle to whatever trajectory they were on.
Wormhole, they might have called it.
It was like a wormhole. Yeah. Now, that was a stable portal. But I've heard of portals that seem to open up, expand, and then disappear. And then there are others that seem to just kind of move around. So what if this is a portal, and what if it is flexing and flexible? What's going to happen with this military installation they've got? They can't keep digging holes all over the place.
No, well, it's a definite possibility. I mean, things move. One of the examples that we might use, and again, I'm sorry for hogging the conversation here, but in England, and I've actually seen this, there are circles of stones, Avebury and so on, people know that, but there are also many other smaller ones that aren't as well known. Some are still energized and some are not. There is one, the Score Hill Stone Circle in Devon, where I've been, and I stood in the middle of that circle. You could not take and this is before digital photography. You could not take an in-focus picture there, and I stood there and I watched people come out from behind the one of the tors, as they're called, the rocks on the moors, which is the wilderness area there. A line of horses and people on foot, and it was maybe a quarter mile away. It's very difficult to judge.
You witnessed that, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I saw it with my own eyes, yeah.
And it was like period clothing, you said, Elizabethan clothing?
It was difficult to see. The thing that came to mind was the English Civil War. 1649,
1640s.
yeah, 1640s. And now again, that may be, but it was a Wednesday morning. It was kind of rainy. Nobody's really going to be out horseback riding on that kind of weather, I would think, in those conditions. So So one wonders about the power centers or portals
Yeah,
that may
the
have been marked by
bleed-throughs and-
these ancient stone circles. And
It would almost seem that if you got the rocks and the energized rocks, that you could kind of keep reactivating a portal. So that
Possible. Or
one
they
might be
move.
stationary.
yeah, so some are sort of
But,
deactivated.
but some
Paul
do seem to
Devereaux could
move.
tell you about the head of the
Yes,
Dragon
you mentioned
Project.
him. Yeah.
But just one more point before I finish hogging the conversation is that Mark D'Antonio and Ben and I and Bill, you were there. We set up a drone in June of 13, I believe, and we went over the area,
Yeah,
and
that's
he found an area that we thought was hollow under the grounded
That's
back
right.
of the
Yes,
farm.
I wanted to bring that up.
So,
Yeah.
Did you want to?
Oh, yeah, no, it's very interesting. We were walking in the backyard, and Mark just started stomping on an area of the land. And he's like, "Oh, it's hollow here." And we're all like, "You've been here 5 minutes. What's going?
Yeah.
How'd you find that?" But and Shane, interestingly enough, after thinking that
Experience something.
who could
there.
top that? Well, when Shane was there, the whole backyard was covered with snow, and Shane looks out the window and he says, "I think there's some hollow land back there," and that, that's.
And what was your experience with that?
That kind of
Shane?
freaked me out.
Yeah, 'cause
I was
know
like,
you
he
saw
truly is
stuff.
weird. No.
No. I could see as soon as I pulled up to the property, and the driveway's to the right of the house, and I pulled up, and I felt compelled to look out on the backyard, and when I did that, I could see in my head, not physically, but in my head, like that's how I work sometimes. I get impressions in my head, like, and not to sound stupid, I never talk about this stuff out loud. It's just stuff I utilize. I'm very scientific, and I work on the mechanics and the understanding, but sometimes I get like these things that pop up in my head, and they always pan out, and I'm looking out on the back of the property, and I could see all kinds of people coming and going. Like there was people running towards this section of the land, and then people running back towards the house. They were going back and forth. The ones that were going towards this property looked like they were anxious, and they were like trying to get there quick, and the ones that were coming out seemed just relaxed. It was weird to me because they were in my head now,
Yeah.
all different time periods, different races, and it turns out that exact spot is where Mark found this hollow spot.
All
And
right. Do we know what that is?
we're gonna find out, because now I haven't been there since we had snow on the ground. We had like 3 feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah. They
Last
had like 7.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to go back there, and that's my intention. And my personal life has been really, really busy. We had a death in the family, and
sorry.
oh no, but it happens, and so it's really tied me up. But I want to get back there, and I can't.
We want to follow up on that.
Yeah, I can't get back there with a better group of guys. I mean, I always work alone, except for when I met, Paul back in
dudes.
probably 1999, I think.
98, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met him, and we were brothers, and we don't
Right
always.
from the start.
Yeah. And we work so great together. We don't always hook up, and then we met Bill, and I'm telling you that this in Ben, like I said on the show before, I knew Ben when he was like this high,
Isn't anymore.
no, but you know
engaged.
what? When he was, I don't know, 5 years old, when I met him, 4, 5, 6, I don't know,
An inquisitive little kid.
very intelligent, just and
He
he's
took after his father.
yes.
I can see that.
So we got a great group here, and so we're gonna get to the bottom of this. We know what's going on at this property, and
Well, what do you think this hollow piece of ground is? Do you think it's like a tomb? Well, evidently
Mark,
a portal, but
Mark seems to think it could be Native American, which might be the
hollow?
North American equivalent of maybe one of those circle areas in England. We just don't know yet.
what I see is, because I'm also part Native American, and I won't go get too far into areas that I don't like to talk about, but I know for sure this land I can tell you without a doubt, this land was used by the Native Americans as a spiritual property, and because of its
Properties. Yeah.
Preconditioned. I mean, it was there. It just natural conditions. The Native Americans tapped into it. But, so it's not because of the Native Americans that
No.
it's this active. They just tapped into it. They utilized it for good reasons.
But generally, their sacred areas aren't necessarily hollow. That's what I find a little bit confusing. Do you think there is an actual hollow spot underneath? Do you think it's a cave?
It's common for base of mountains to be used by Native Americans for spiritual locations, riverways, and this is both. It's
okay.
out of a base of, it's in a valley, right at the base of a mountain. There's also 3 rivers that run towards this property and bend
Couple
away.
that go away, yeah.
Which I've always said, any area that has a river, a stream nearby, especially particularly the ones with bends or waterfalls, anything with constriction or a change in velocity of the water.
A lot of paranormal activity.
Yeah, and this is times 3. You got 3 rivers, and that all go towards this property and bend away, and but also you're at the base of a mountain too, because we said it. Litchfield Hills, and it's in a valley. It's right at the base of these mountains, and these black helicopters that we talk about, they fly over that mountain, right over them.
Well, I did want to get into some of the other extraterrestrial type activities, and first of all, to Ben, thank you very much for sharing that experience with us, because that was very interesting.
Oh, thank you. I like to share things occasionally, and I like you guys. So,
Well, that's good.
We
That's good.
appreciate it.
That's good.
thank you.
But before we move on to that, it is
the bottom of the hour
so
again.
why don't we go ahead and take a...
How did that happen?
I don't know. It was the top of the hour, and then it was the bottom. So why don't we go ahead and take our last break?
All right,
Yes,
we'll
sir?
be back in a minute.
Okay.
You are listening to Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience on WSCA 106.1 FM, and we'll be right back after this short break.
And you are tuned to WSCA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth's West End. And this is Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience, the extended 2-hour version. From the community calendar, folk rock legend Richard Thompson will be performing live on Wednesday, June 24th at Prescott Park Arts Festival. The show begins at 7 p.m. on the outdoor stage in the park. This iconic British folk rock legend was named one of the Rolling Stone magazine's top 20 guitarists of all time, and is a recent recipient of the BBC Lifetime Achievement Award. The event is free but has a suggested donation price, with all proceeds going towards the support of the festival. For further information can be found online at prescottpark.org. And some upcoming guests.
Yes, our upcoming guest lineup starts with June 27th, when we have Dennis Stone coming on. He's owner and manager of America's Stonehenge in Salem, New Hampshire, and will be focusing on the research of the sacred site. July 4th, Willy and I are taking a short break and we're going to schedule a rerun, one of our former shows. July 11th, Brad Olson returns to wrap up our discussion on the second half of his travel guide history book titled Sacred Places, 108 Destinations Europe. July 18, we're welcoming back Sherry Brake, and she's owner and operator of Heartland Tours in West Virginia, and she's also author of several investigative books on ghosts. July 25th, Richard Southall will be joining us, and he's got his the latest publication out. It's called Haunted Plantations of the South. August 1st, Meryl Fankhauser, some of the music, author of some of the music that we played earlier in the evening. He's just released his new CD, and we'll be talking also about his paranormal experiences while he lived in Hawaii. August 8th, Ellen Dugan has a new release titled Natural Psychic, and she'll be online to review this book with us. And then August 15th, someone by the name of Bill Hall will be guesting, and he'll be talking to us about haunted diaries.
15th? I thought it was the 18th, the 25th.
No, it's the 15th.
Oh, okay. That's a good thing you told me. I might have missed it.
Not. And he'll be giving us a straight scoop on the Haunted House Diaries. And that's our guest lineup.
Okay. And so we are back once again.
Yes, welcome back to everyone. Now, we were talking about some of the odd sightings, and I want to cover, if we have time, some information about UFOs, missing times, abductions, and so forth. But we've got some very, very peculiar, curious sightings that we'd like to talk about, and Paul has a little film clip that he'd like to explain to us. And Bill, maybe you want to set the story up?
Yes, sure. And this is a good example, one example of the many bizarre things that happen at the house. The grandson, who was living there for a while with the family, because it's a very big place. When he was about 3, he would matter of fact, there's a home video where he's continually pointing to the ceiling, stopping from rocking on his horse, completely enthralled with what's up on the ceiling, and pointing to it, and trying to get attention from Donna, the grandmother, and she can't figure out what he's looking at. He actually mouths what later on would become Ashwar, which ended up being kind of an invisible or a friend, but not really imaginary. So what happens is he's playing in the living room and sitting down doing his own thing, and then would become distracted. So this would go on and on. He'd become distracted. He'd look up. He'd get up, and toddle his way over to where the bathroom is and look up, and would be totally captivated by this. They'd have to literally go and pick him up and remove him from there, because he wouldn't, he wouldn't leave. He was, engaged there with whoever, like he was, listening back and forth. And, then he started talking about it. This is Ashwar. Ashwar's a little girl. She's in an accident, and now she's stuck here to observe. And she's in a little blue dress, and she's in the tree outside. There's a large tree outside the house, and so this is going on. He's putting toys around the tree, and they say, what are you doing? I'm putting toys out for Ashwar. And matter of fact, the mother goes to the school for the parent-teacher conference, and they say, well, how's your daughter? And she's like, I don't have a daughter. So he's telling the school that Ashwar is his sister, and
Oh my gosh.
And he's not the type of child. He's a very practical child. He's not the type of child who kind of makes up this kind of stuff. But they've seen the behavior, so they're all talking about it, saying, well, let's not talk to him about this Ashwar thing, and let's try to, whenever he goes towards that bathroom, let's get him away from there, and kind of, try to break this habit, whatever it is. And so, and then it gets to the point where, Paul comes by in the investigation, and the Ashwar story comes up. And Paul, why don't you take it from there and describe your incident with the video, and then we could talk about the similarity to that other bizarre picture.
Sure.
Photos.
Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Actually, we were a very cold night in November of 2010, I believe, and I had been talking with Dale, and he said that the accident thing is very interesting, but he embellished on that for me. He said it was almost as if there was a shift of consciousness. I've seen this in cases where someone is in one life And in one case, there seemed to have been a plane crash, and all of a sudden they were in another perfectly physical life somewhere or someone else.
You say you've seen this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What do you mean by seen this?
Well,
You've
that's-
met
that's-
somebody who has experienced that?
Several times, yes. As a matter of fact,
Okay.
that kind of gets off the track, but
Parallel universes type thing. But
seemingly,
yeah,
we'll save it for another time. If
Yeah,
you would.
mhm.
But in any case, the Ashwar situation was kind of like that. And he said, well, she's out in the tree right now, out in front of the house. And I visited that tree a few days ago when I was there. But she would. I pointed the infrared camera up into the tree. It was very dark. You were sitting on the front porch there, and all of a sudden, and this video can be seen on the Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Facebook page.
Everybody has to check that out.
Yeah, and you can see in the first few seconds, I'm just moving the camera kind of up and down the tree, and all of a sudden, about 6 seconds in, from the upper center, comes this what Bill has very aptly described as almost like a whitish tadpole coming down out of the tree. And because wouldn't you know, that's when I pull the camera away, but it's very clear to see. And it immediately brought to mind some of the photographs taken by Gregory Harold in Florida in the 1970s that he got on his security camera in his backyard of some very similar looking figures. I often have wondered, you often see ghosts depicted as sort of these bulbous things with tails instead of
True.
legs. And I wonder, maybe people have experienced whatever this might be and thought it was ghosts. Maybe it is, I don't know. But we thought, gee, is this Ashwar? And he later told me, the little boy told me, that that Ashwar's people lived in trees. So
It almost sounds Indian, like an Indian name.
yeah,
Pakistani. Doesn't it?
as Indian as in India. Yeah,
as in India.
So that was it. But again, people can see that on the Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben, Facebook page.
And now when I talked to Greg Harold, and he was kind enough to, we exchanged photos. I took the video that Paul had and got him into stills of this creature, which is in the book. And actually, at the end, as it came down, it's hard to tell whether it's coming down like crawling on the tree or just in front of the tree. It's kind of hard to tell. Of course, with the nature of it, it makes it even harder to tell. And then at the end, as it goes down, it kind of dissipates into like a mist. But it's very, very defined before then. I mean, it's very clearly this thing. And so in comparing with Greg's videos that he took of the creatures, the entities over a period of 2 years, in the book I actually put a still of his entity next to Ashwar.
Really?
And it appears to be the same creature. So it's really fascinating. And, this is just an example of the many things that happen there. And, that consciousness thing Paul was talking about, that happened, other times in the house with the daughter and in the back seat, before I was your baby, I was, going on with these stories, just,
With a previous life.
Right. Just
or parallel life.
Or parallel.
Right. Yeah, depend how you interpret it. Like what Ben said, you fit it into whatever your whatever context your belief system is.
Well,
but
she said before I was your daughter.
Yeah.
Before I was your daughter.
Yeah.
Out of the mouths of babes.
Right.
You should have heard him when he was little. Ben, that is.
Did Ben say something similar?
Oh, you wouldn't. I can write novels based on what he said. As soon as he could talk, he was telling about what I interpreted as parallel. He was a soldier, this, that, and the other thing, and it went on and on and on. His mother and I kind of sit there with our
About
mouths
soldiers? Did you say?
open. Well, among other things, yeah. He probably doesn't remember. But
So
this is
you
common,
have
sure.
quite a resume now, Ben. So you're all set.
But this creature that you saw, it did not then seem humanoid, but it was talking about.
No, definitely not.
But it was
humanoid.
female, and it had an accident.
Later on, Dale also described the type of car. The mother had lost her arm. It was very, very. It was a lot of detail, and the detail about the car alone was pretty bizarre for for a boy his age, describing, this kind of car. I believe it was in the 1950s or something. So it was.
So it's almost like a reincarnation into another type of an entity.
Well, maybe.
Well, yeah, we don't really know. I mean, the whole question, was Ashwar ever a girl, and did Ashwar ever had an accident?
Well,
that's all the questions, right? The framework. Like, a buddy of mine said, well, why didn't you research to see if there was a car accident in the 1950s with somebody with Ashwar? And I was like, no, it's useless because
it wouldn't have been Ashwar.
Yeah. These kinds of things are not that simple, so.
The first night I was there, this is Shane. The first night I was there, and we spent the night, me, Bill, and Bill's friend, and now my friend, and Paul's friend, Ray, who's a great guy. Ray was there to take pictures, and we spent the night. Bill, myself, and Ray, we laid down on like these old military cots in the living room, and. I mean, not only did I hear like things going on in the kitchen, like turkey tins were being like bashed around, but and there was coins or it sounded like a ring or like a coin being dropped and like spinning around by my feet, but right at my foot, like 4 to 6 feet away, the door to the dining room was shut, and I clearly heard. I was wide awake. I didn't wake up to this. I was awake. And I heard, plain as day, a little girl say, and I heard it clearly, I just wanted to go out to play. Like she was explaining herself, like she got caught doing something wrong, and like she was outside. She got caught being outside when she shouldn't have been, but that was it. So then I hear about this accident. So now I'm wondering, like, does that have anything to do with it? I don't know, but she was explaining it that way, like she was doing something wrong. She got caught doing something wrong. I just wanted to go outside to play. That's exactly what I heard with my own ears. We had recorders going that night, but they were downstairs at a different location where we had lockers being opened up and blocking doors, and I saw an apparition of a man, and so we focused on that area, and so we didn't capture that on but I wanted to add to that, but
yes, thank you. So, what is the ending of Ashwar? How old is the grandson, and does he see this anymore?
No. There was the time came. I believe it is in less than a year's time. We're talking about where he just came and announced. Ashwar doesn't come around anymore. Not upset or sad, just like one of those things. Where, as you have many different friendships when you're younger, just, Ashwar doesn't come around anymore. And that was kind of it. They kind of left it alone and said, all right, and that was it.
Connecticut's very weird.
Yeah.
I know, I grew up there.
Yeah, Paul and I probably started that. No.
Well, I had an ancestor who was caught up in the Hartford witch hysteria of the 1640s, which was way before Salem.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But he was attacked by poltergeists and stuff was happening in his house. So this must run in the family. Nicholas Disborough.
All right, then you're weird.
Oh, very. Just talking to my wife.
Well, so we talked about those sightings. So let me see. We've got maybe 7 minutes left, Willie?
Yeah, about that.
Somewhere around there. So there were a lot of UFO sightings, abductions, and missing time. Does anybody have any information on that in this area?
I had not heard of any abductions in the classical sense of the UFO abductions, but lots of sightings. We ourselves saw some strange lights. People were getting out of their cars at one point, especially in 2009, 2010.
Well, Mark had missing time and what appears to be what appears to be
Mark D'Antonio from MUFON.
When he was a child. When he was a child, right in that area.
That's right.
Near when he went to Burr Pond on a school trip, and came back not remember anything, still having his lunch, didn't experience the trip at all, and later had an implant taken out of his nose. Yeah.
Are you serious?
And this is an astrophysicist. I mean, he's not like a crazy guy,
So that has been recorded? I mean, they physically saw the implant?
Yeah.
Well,
How is that explained?
Well, I don't know how you explain those things.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
I mean, in
there
the
are
real
lots of them.
world, how are they explaining the discovery of this
Well,
implant?
the doctor just says it's a,
Just an implant.
Well, it's
Well, sometimes
it's something up
minerals
there.
can
Yeah, it's a piece of
Maybe you
something,
swallowed
and
a
you know,
BB or something.
Yeah,
One thing you have to
Sniffed it.
realize, Lynn, there is no real world.
right. Yeah.
Well, what everybody perceives to be the 3D and not the
Right.
4D world, I'm wondering what the explanation is to what is the doctor saying? What is he putting in his report?
The-
That the kid just sniffed up a BB or something?
Well, he had it taken out many years later. It wasn't discovered, right away at the
Okay, so he
time
wasn't
at
a
all.
kid, but I'm
Right,
just wondering
right.
what the explanation
and after
is.
that, he started having some
Headaches?
seizure-like behavior, and in
Really?
fact, he's in the hospital right now
He's
for
in the
something
hospital.
that
Okay, so
I,
he's the one.
that I would
He's the one I
not be
mentioned, yeah.
surprised, could be related to that kind of thing
Who
from
knows?
years
That
ago.
could have been
you
an
know.
aid.
I'll ask him when I see him next week. We're going to go visit him.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love a follow up on
I
that.
know Shane was going to say something, but there was an incident that occurred with Mark and his father, and that was I suppose you could call that a time slip incident, perhaps, because they pulled up to a road. I don't know if it was that very road or one very near it, and there were a bunch of fire trucks that looked like they were like from 20
that
or 30
was
years
that
before.
was actually his son in
Oh.
that area had that
Oh, was it? His son-
experience.
Okay.
Yeah, that was bizarre. It was it was like a phantom emergency road crew. I mean, they thought it was a real road crew, but they noticed that there were things that were very different about the vehicles. Like they didn't quite get everything right. You know what I mean? Almost like kind of like in a Twilight Zone sci-fi movie where the the aliens are trying to imitate, the uniforms weren't quite right, and it was, you couldn't put your finger on it, but like the cars had kind of a curved to it, almost like they were
From the
not at
50s,
the right
40s.
not at
Yeah.
the right time frame, and the cop didn't even, they had to actually go out of their way to talk to the police officer. Normally if you start approaching a scene like
Yeah,
that,
somebody's there to stop
the
you.
officer goes, "Hey, what the heck are you doing? Turn around, you can't go this way." They would, but the guy was basically ignoring them, and they had to say, "Hey, what do we do, or what's going on?" And he
Was
said,
there interaction though?
the officer said, "Turn around and go the other way," something like that.
Well, he told me he drove a little ways. He hit a side street and said, "You know what?" He recalled it was only minutes, and he said, "There's something not right about this," and he was compelled. I have to turn back around and go and check this out. So it was only minutes. He hit a side street. He turned back around and went back, and there was no sign of anything. There was no lights, no markers, no nothing.
Wow.
Like he goes, this thing was full of emergency vehicles, and now they're gone, like in minutes.
Yeah, it was less than 10 minutes, and they traced their way to be sure. It was the only one road. The boy was with his girlfriend at the time. She was in tears because she just knew something was so wrong about it. So that whole story is in the book too, and that's from that same area.
Fascinating. Same area. Then.
Yeah. I mean, there's another street, and I haven't seen this, but I have heard from some people I know that they say that that it's not just a legend, that it's true. There's a street in Torrington where a little boy is seen walking, and so that's so there's just a lot of those kinds of things. I tried to stick to the things that were more provable than the other, but that's one that seems to have some merit to it, because some of my family members that live in that area said, "Oh yeah, no, that's true," and they know people
That's a
who
known
have
story.
seen it. Not to take it beyond that urban legend thing, but I mean it's quite an area.
The child. Well, the people that saw the fire, the emergency equipment, are they related to Donna?
No, that actually happened to Mark's son in
Mark's
that area.
son.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Everybody has to get the book to check that out.
Absolutely.
Haunted Diaries.
Haunted House Diaries.
I'm sorry. Haunted
Yeah.
House Diaries. Sorry.
And you can go to williamjhallauthor.com, and there's stuff there, some free stuff and other things.
Excellent.
Okay, well, we are just about out
Just
of time.
about out of time. There's so much more to talk about. But
Final thoughts, anybody?
Well, keep watching the skies. Is that-
Yes, keep watching the skies.
And thank you for having us.
Oh,
It's been
yes,
a
thank
real
pleasure.
fun couple of hours.
Hey, we thank you all
Terrific.
very much for coming. Let's see.
We got to
Shane,
get some
Shane,
websites
website?
in.
TrueGhost.com. Check it out, and contact information if you need me for any assistance or any appearances. You can find me there. And thank you, Will and
Our
Lynn.
pleasure.
It's my third or fourth appearance here.
This is your third time here.
Third
actually,
time, and I love it.
believe.
I'll come back anytime at all.
Oh, you're welcome anytime. You all are. You all are. Of course,
Thank
we
you.
know Bill is coming back. So.
Any
Yes, thank
lectures
you.
coming up or anything else?
Website.
besides-
Oh yeah,
What
yeah.
shows?
On my website there is a calendar.
Great.
Yeah, of all
Great.
the interviews, including on Paul and Ben's show.
Good. We'll catch that.
And the website was
WilliamJHallAuthor.com.
okay.
And Paul and Ben.
Ben.
Okay, well, with us, behindtheparanormal.com, and then there's a Facebook icon. It'll take you right to the show Facebook page where you can see that video.
Oh, terrific.
And,
yes, got to check
you,
that out.
You will be on our show, the two of you, Willie and Lynn.
Yes, we
On
are.
June
Going down to
28th.
Woonsocket.
Monday, June 29th, WOON 1240 in
That's
Woonsocket.
right.
And check that out, too.
Yeah, we are looking forward to that. Yeah.
So,
Got to talk about some ghosts.
Okay.
So, Paul, Ben, Bill, and Shane, thank you so much. Fun night.
Yes, thank
We got to
Oh,
do this
thank you.
again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we got to do this again. So thank you, everybody. And that is the extended version of Spirit Radio, The Paranormal Experience. Craig Mosier with the Graveyard Shift will be back next week at his regular time of 10 o'clock.
And good night, everyone, and thank you for listening.
In this one of many possible worlds, all for the best or some bizarre tale.